Hello, this is our database IMDb project schema. Today I'm Ian Fields. I have with me Dakota and Sami Lopez. They're helping record, so they're going to introduce themselves in a little bit. But to start off, I'll be giving you a brief description of our entities and what their attributes are, why we chose their attributes. Dakota will be helping me with that, and then we're going to pass it off to Sami to talk about the relationships between our entities and why we chose those, and specifically what the single versus double line relationships mean for those entities. So to start, like I said, we'll be going into the IMDb ER diagram. So this is our total entire diagram. I'll be showing you this first, that way once we start getting to the relationships, you can have a better understanding total of why these things are connected to each other and maybe what these entities are even going to be doing within our database. So to start off, everything is based off of this movie diagram right here in the middle, movie entity in the middle. Movie is on IMDb what everything is connected to. If you search up a movie, let's say my favorite, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and you go to the page for that movie, you'll find a link to all these other entities, which is how we figured out what entities that we're going to put on this diagram. So you can scroll to the bottom and you're going to find the soundtrack. You could scroll to the top and you're going to find directors and writers. All of these entities can be found on the page for a movie. So to start off, since we're talking about movie already, let's talk about a little bit on the attributes. The closest attribute is title ID. That also happens to be the key attribute for movies. This is a string that's in the URL for any movie page you go to. If you find it, usually I believe it starts with a T and then it's a series of numbers. But this is a string that's used to mark off every individual movie on their site. We thought about using name as the key attribute, but name just isn't as unique as a string literally generated in order to log each movie's index on the page. Above that, we have two multi-value attributes, genres and languages. These are multi-value because every movie can have multiple genres, maybe action, adventure, mystery, and they can also have multiple languages, English, Japanese, Chinese. Above that, we have ratings. So our ratings include popularity and IMDb ratings. These are both individual attributes that you can find on the page describing the movie. A bit about that, you can see the box office revenue for the movie and the budget. So basically how much was spent on the movie and how much return they got off of that. So speaking of the ratings that I just mentioned, we have a weak entity, reviews. It's a weak entity because reviews is dependent on the existence of the movie that is being reviewed on. So you can't have somebody write a review on no movie, there has to be a movie for it. It has three attributes that we've given it. It's key attribute here, Metascore, which is the score you see on the top right of any movie page, and two other attributes, user and critic. These are multi-value because there could be multiple users or multiple critics reviewing a movie. And they are not key attributes because the same user could technically go to a different review for a different movie. So Metascore is just the most unique value that we could give. The next one that I'll cover is director. Director has multiple attributes here, and we base all the attributes for director off of things that we can find on the director's page on the website. So for personal details, that's also an attribute. We have birthday, hometown, and gender. These are all listed on the IMDb website. For the key attribute, we have name. This is a key attribute you'll find quite a lot. Usually with directors, it's similar to actors. Famous directors can be known by their name. Michael Bay, you know Michael Bay simply by his name alone. So we chose a name as the key attribute. We have a derived attribute here called number of movies. This is the composition of just how many movies the director's made. It's derived because it's based off of how many movies the director's made. Every director has a different amount. Family is the next section. This has its own page on IMDb for the director, and this is another composite attribute. This covers the spouse, the children, and the parents. So for these next couple entities, I'm going to pass it out to Dakota, and he'll tell you a little bit about those.
And I'm going to finish the presentation on our ER diagram. So our next entity here is writer, and so writer is an entity of movies. We have the derived attribute here, number of movies, which is the number of movies that this particular writer has written for. A key attribute for writer that helps us differentiate between different writers that is unique to an individual writer is the name. We also have the composite attribute, personal details. Every writer has these personal details, such as birth date, the hometown that they grew up in, and their gender. And so these are all of the attributes of this rider that help us understand what particular rider we're talking about. So our next entity is going to be OST, which is a weak entity of movies, and a derived attribute of OST is the number of soundtracks within that OST. And derived from an entity of OST is soundtrack. And so some of the attributes for soundtrack are performers on that particular soundtrack, writers for that soundtrack, because every soundtrack has to have a writer as well as it has to have performers. And the way that we can identify these particular soundtracks is by their title. So that is our key attribute. And our next entity here is watch option. And so watch option could be the particular streaming service that we're watching it on, or possibly the disc. So some of the attributes that go hand in hand with that would be disc, which is a composite attribute. You can go with a Blu-ray or a DVD. You can do the price of that particular streaming service's subscription. And a key attribute for the watch option is the name. So like I said, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Video, those are some examples. And so every watch option has a format. And so format is a composite attribute here. So you can rent, you can stream, or you can buy. And so that is the format that these watch options can be in. Our final entity here is actor, which is an entity of movies. And so every actor has to have a role, whether that role is leading or supporting. It has to have one of the two. And then actor needs some personal details similar to writer as well as director, such as pay, their birth date, and our identifying factor here, similar to writer and director, is name, because that writer will have a unique name. And then some important information that we need to know about this actor is their family. So we've got a composite attribute here, family, which includes their parents, their children, and their spouse. And so all of these attributes here allow us to identify this actor by their name, their other identifying information. And that is our ER diagram.
Okay, I'm Sami, and next we're going to be talking about our relationship diagrams. So right here we have our first relationship. Movie may have many reviews. So we did may because there's a single line right here between the relationship has, and then we have a must relationship over here because the reviews must have one movie. Next we have our movie director relationship. So the movie must be directed by at least one director. So we have a double line right here to the end relationship, and then we have over here director may direct many movies. So that's why we have a single line over here. Next, we have our movie must be written by one writer. So we have the double line right here to a one writer. And then we have our writer may write many movies. So we have the single line to end to represent that. Next, we have a movie must be worked on by many actors. So we have the double bar line to the end. And then we have over here, an actor may work for many movies. So we have the single line to end. We have our movies may have many watch options. So we have a single line to the end. And then going the other way, we have watch options may have many movies. So we have that single line to the end relationship. So right here, we have a weak entity from movies to the OST. We have the movies may possess one OST, and then going the other way, an OST must be possessed by one movie. Here we also have the weak entity OST, and it must contain many soundtracks. And then going the other way around, its soundtrack may be contained by many OSTs. And that is the end of our relationship diagrams. begin our presentation.